Welcome back, pro wrestling fans. Welcome back, IWC. It's your old buddy, the Guardian of Chaos, Big Daddy, and I tell it like it is. I'll say that to say this, coming to you live to tape, 25 feet below the surface of the earth. Wait, I have quite the dilemma here. I'm live, but I am taping this at the same time. Fuck it, you guys get the idea. Fans, thanks for being here on Guardian of Chaos, the YouTube channel. We have an unbelievable special episode today. It's going to be an extravaganza, a bonanza, covering last night's AEW Dynamite, the Continental Classic. And then, of course, we will preview this weekend's pay-per-view, AEW World's End. It's a lot to be said for World's End, no pun intended. And that will be coming to you from Long Island, New York. Fans, sit back, kick back, grab a snack, grab a beverage, grab your friends, like, subscribe, leave a comment, get us in the algorithm, share this, email me, inbox me, do something. Because this is hot off the presses. This is trending news here at Chaos Corner. I can't thank you fans enough. Much love and respect for being here. Go to the community page and you will find out everything that's going on here on the channel. Follow me on all social media platforms. You know what they are. On Twitter, aka X, it's at Big Daddy G.O.C. And the G.O.C. stands for the Guardian of Chaos. On Instagram, it's the Guardian of Chaos. Obviously on YouTube, it's the Guardian of Chaos. On Facebook, I have 2 accounts. That's right, there's 2. Strictly for social media and business purposes. J Brony, that's right, J Brony, just like it sounds, for all you jabronis, geeks, nerds, dweebs, goons. No offense, man, kayfabe, lighten up. And then, of course, there's Prodigio Fidelis El Guardian in honor of my heritage. Follow me on Gitter, Gab, Truth Social, and soon to be live on Rumble. You guys are not going to want to miss this. You gals are not going to want to miss this. We're going to get right into it. This will be uploaded this afternoon, early this evening. Let's give everyone a happy New Year's celebration coming up this weekend as we're out of the Merry Christmas season. But a big shout out, of course, today and every day to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Because if he's for us, no one else can be against us. Walk in faith, not fear. Situational awareness. You need to be emotionally, mentally, physically, and especially spiritually fit in this day and age, 2023, as we go into 2024. So let me take a quick sip of beverage. You have to stay hydrated. I just had an unbelievable meal. A nice filet, a little broccoli on the side, a nice salad, some ahi-mahi seared tuna, along with the old mac and cheese bites that I probably shouldn't have, but I am getting into shape. Lean, trim, buff, jacked, ripped, chiseled like shredded wheat. Come on, man, I'm the big 6-0, the over 50 man brand, the old man brand, the over 50 demo god. You see how I just fucked that up, right? But you guys know what 2-time Hall of Famer and host of Busted Open Radio, host of Busted Open After Dark, a co-host in this, I rumble, stumble, fumble, bumble. What Bully Ray said to me, it's apropos, and you can see it right now. Give the Guardian of Chaos Big Daddy 5 spots, and he'll fuck up 4 of them. We were just talking about it this week on Busted Open Radio with Tommy Dreamer and Bully Ray, who I was in the ring with both of those legends. And we were talking about who would be your vote to go into the Hall of Fame for the WWE this year. Kurt Henning's name came up. I mentioned the late, great Ivan Koloff. I'm not sure if he's in or not. I also talked about another man who I was in the ring with, the late, great King Kong Bundy. Who are your picks? A lot of people talking about Dave Bautista. Who would you guys, as fans here, subscribers, and you non-subscribers out there, because I know, and you know that I know, that you're watching. All you trolls and people sitting in the back that don't want to comment, hit the like button, don't want to subscribe. I know who you are, and I know what your intentions are. And in order to get respect, you have to start with respecting yourself. Once you do that, you open other people's minds to respecting you. And there's three types of people in this world: those who don't know what happened, those who wonder what happened, and people like the Guardian of Chaos, Big Daddy, that make things happen. My 25 years behind the walls, a decade as a bounty hunter, private investigator, repo man, private security, bodyguard, you name it, I fucking did it. And I apologize for cussing, because I know I don't have to. It just comes out of emotion, passion. That's why I'm here. It's a stress reliever, a much needed distraction for you and me. And you guys know that if you're here on a regular basis. And that's all I'm going to say about that. One man, unique, unedited, unscripted, raw dog for you, the fans. My over 50 plus years as a researcher, historian, a scout, an agent, a producer, a fan, a smart, a mark. That's right, I said it, a fucking mark. We're all marks in one way or another. And of course, my over 3 decades, coming up, I'm almost 4 decades since I entered into this business with learning and training back in 1983, 1984. Let that sink in. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. A manager who took the fucking bumps, did the promos, came out 2 or 3 times a night with his squad. My stable. How about that? Class of 2019 New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Class of 2020 Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. In the ring with over 30 WWE, WCW, TNA, ECW Hall of Famers. I'm just throwing out it. Go look at the mitt. Go look at the entrance. Go look at the introduction to this channel. Over 2,500 videos. Right near that 1,000 subscribers and almost 500,000 total views. So back to what I was talking about before I go off on my rant here today. Who do you want to see inducted into the class of 2024 WWE Hall of Fame? There's a lot of people out there, especially the ones that I mentioned as well. And go back and listen to Busted Open Radio this past week. I believe it was, if today is Thursday, Dynamite was last night. I believe I was on when it was The Fat and the Furious with just Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer as the 2 hosts. Because LaGreca was persona non grata. And who knows where Mark Henry was? I don't know. Sexual chocolate, maybe setting a powerlifting record. I mean, who knows with Mark Henry? He's everywhere. He's busier than a blow-up doll at a frat party. So I believe it was Monday or Tuesday's show that I was on with those 2 talking about the Hall of Fame. And thank you, both of you guys. Although Bully Ray gave me the 1, 2, 3, the big elbow, dusty elbow, the dipsy do, dunkaroo, and then the what's up from him and Devon in those series of tables matches back in 06-07 for the NWA World Tag Team titles under my tutelage with the Outcast Killers, Omar Tortuga and Diablo Santiago. And then, of course, my matches against Tommy Dreamer, especially with Ron Zombie, the New England legend, hardcore legend. That's right, Dreamer. I remember the fucking kendo stick, what you call it, Singapore cane. I still have the welts on my ass. You know what really burns my ass? If you fans want to know, a flame about this high. Wait, you gotta have some sort of entertainment and levity here on the show. All right, we're just about 9 minutes in here for my opening monologue. And again, we're going to cover last night's AEW Dynamite. We're not going to go hold for hold, blow for blow. I'll give you the outlier. And then we'll preview World's End. And I'll even probably put out some predictions. But I will say Dynamite was chaos last night. Pun intended. What a clusterfuck in certain ways. And matches, I'm not here to bash. I'm here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you guys know that. Big shout out to World Class Championship Wrestling back in the day when I was in my early 20s. Boy, what a group that was in the 80s. And before we get going here on AEW Dynamite, I went with the wife and we went and watched the opening, the premiere night of the Iron Claw with Zac Efron and all the other stars that were in it. I'm going to give the Iron Claw an 8, perhaps a 9 out of 10 for movies. And I'm just going to say that to say this because you know I tell it like it is. Now, were there some flaws? Of course. The biggest major flaw in the Iron Claw, no mention of Chris Von Erich, who was an integral part of that family and committed suicide as well, along with Michael, along with Carrie. Rest in peace. So why Chris was taken out of the film or not put in the film, there's all kinds of reasons. But Kevin Von Erich put his stamp of approval on this film. So that's good enough for me, for all you naysayers and trolls out there on social media. Zac Efron played an incredible Kevin Von Erich, although he looked more like Kerry Von Erich. The guy that played Fritz, the actor, looked just like Fritz Von Erich. He really did. The Ric Flair character was horrible, terrible. They could have got anybody to do a better job than the Ric Flair character. Harley Race character, a gimmick persona was pretty good, not bad, pretty accurate. So I'm giving you the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Iron Claw. But overall, obviously it was sad and tragic and heartbreaking, but also very inspirational. The wife broke down in tears a couple of times. If you know the Von Erich story and watched Triumph and Tragedy of the Von Erichs or Dark Side of the Ring on Vice, or even grew up in that era as a young man in my 20s, as a huge wrestling fan already trying to enter the business, then you knew that it wasn't that historically accurate in certain areas and they left a lot of things to be desired. But if you were a casual and a pro wrestling fan alike, how could you not appreciate and like this movie and how it turned out with Kevin Von Erich, the only surviving Von Erich, who's now flourishing with Marshall and Ross Von Erich, who both, just for insignificance sake, liked and retweeted my reviews of the movie. A solid movie, worth going to see. I'd go see it again. So don't get caught up on bashing it and being negative and all the historical stuff that was wrong with the Iron Claw. Take it for what it's worth and the tragedy. Again, Chris not being in it was the biggest takeaway that I did not, the biggest negative of the movie, along with the Flair character and a couple of other inaccuracies. But if Kevin Von Erich puts his stamp on the movie, don't you think you should too? Everyone's entitled to their opinion, I get it. But these people outright shitting on it. Oh, I lived it. I was around during that era. I witnessed it. You weren't a fucking Von Erich. How about that? So well worth it. Fans, go out and see the Iron Claw. Go out and see the Iron Claw. So let's hop into it now. We're 13 minutes in. You lucky 13. Last night, here's the results in the AEW Dynamite Continental Classic last night. Overall, an entertaining show, but some things that just didn't make sense and that I don't find entertaining. Again, I'm the over 50 demo god, the old man brand. Before I rumbled and stumbled and fumbled it earlier, you guys know you like it when I get tongue-tied and I'm linguistic. I know that you like that. I'm not going to go in any particular order, but we start off last night's AEW Dynamite with a three-way in the Gold League semifinals. Now, I like the twist that they had to draw. This became a three-way. Moxley, the Switchblade, Jay White, and of course, Shane Swerve Strickland. Now, all three incredible talents. The hottest, fastest rising star in AEW is Shane Strickland. And you guys know that Strickland, Swerve, if you will, worked under the guidance of the Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling banner for Evolve Paradise Alley, the Super Show Evolve 95 for the WWN Network. It's out there on YouTube. Go to Evolve 95 when it was run by Gabe Sapolsky on the WWN Network. And you'll see Swerve Strickland, Darby Allin, Zack Sabre Jr., Matt Riddle, Keith Lee. They were all there that night to work with the stars along Paradise Alley. Richard Holiday, Showtime Marcel Williams, R.J. Rude, Nutrius X, Matthias DiNapoli. It's out there. So just to show you my home company and the talent that has worked for us and been under our banner, it was certainly an honor and a privilege. And of course, Shane Strickland on the same card along with Sabu and Willie Mack and Eva Lise and Ricky Reyes. an unbelievable event. Richard Holiday also, who's currently now back bigger and stronger than ever in MLW, the former Dynasty member from MLW with Hammerstone, Holiday, and MJF. Look for that faction to get back together sooner or later, whether it's in AEW or the WWE, and I'm calling it here first. So let me get back onto what we were talking about, the three-way in the Gold League, to see who goes into the finals for this Saturday night, live at World's End. Mox, White, and Swerve. An unbelievable match to open up. They've been opening up Dynamite with these Continental Classic matches for the last bunch of weeks. Now, I'm going to say that to say this. I liked the Continental Classic overall. It brought out some unbelievable guys that really shined. Brody King for one of them. And King is no Brody, if you know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. But he had a heck of a tournament. Mark Briscoe, although undervalued and underutilized, had a solid tournament full of unbelievable matches. Jay Lethal, who's a Hall of Famer in my opinion, used and abused and served like hell till one day he was found hung dead in his cell. All involved, all in void, walking around with pretty boy Floyd turned stick-up kid. Look what you done did. Got sent up for an 8-year bid. No? Too early? Little Grandmaster Flash, don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge. No? No? Okay. Let me get back to what I'm talking about. It really was what the kids will say, and I hate using this term because everybody else uses it, so that's why I try not to use it. It was a banger. Back and forth. We know Moxley doesn't really sell. We know he's really changed from Dean Ambrose in the WWE, but he has carried AEW. Swerve, as I said, the highest, fastest, hottest rising star in AEW. The angle that he had going on with Hangman Page, little creepy, little out there, outlandish, but it worked. Switchblade Jay White, in my opinion, came in as hot as a lead pistol. Steel pistol. It makes sense. Especially when he was down with the Guns and rock hard Juice Robinson when they were Bullet Club Gold. They were setting AEW on its ears, but since the Guns have stepped in the back burner, Ring of Honor or wherever the fuck they may be, and rock hard Juice Robinson got injured, Jay White is still an unbelievable grappler, and he certainly wasn't buried. He shined in this tournament. And he made it to the semifinals. But I get it. I think he's lost a little bit of luster. They tried to force him from Bullet Club Gold into the whole MJF angle because Cole, boom, got injured. Which they've held everything up in this company. TK's held everything up for that whole angle. To me, you pivot and you move past it and you go on to something else. They didn't really, by bringing in Strong and Taven and Bennett. And so I'm getting off on a different tangent here. But you guys know what I'm talking about when it comes to momentum for Jay White. The Switchblade, that's what I'm talking about. And okay, well, how could you say that? Well, I can say that because look at his last several matches. Not his in-ring performance. The fans aren't really responding to him since he's not a part of the Bullet Club Gold as a faction currently right now because they're all split up. He just hasn't been getting the pop, the rub, still performing, and he hasn't been getting the decisions. Before the Continental Classic, he had a big loss. I can't remember offhand to who. You know, I have amnesia and deja vu at the same time. I think I've forgotten this before. My mind's like a lazy Susan. It'll come back around. So that's my opinion. And what does Mox gain by this? He's already been world champion. He's already considered one of the toughest son of a bitches in AEW. He hasn't really taken any time off, injuries or not, doing all the hardcore stuff he does, and then talking about concussion protocol. You can't have it both ways, Mox. So what is he... I'm not disappointed in the outcome of any of this. I'm just giving you my opinion, my viewpoints. Tradition, respect, honor. Look in the rearview mirror. It's smaller for a reason. Respect it. And then, of course, the windshield's bigger for a reason. Turn around, step on the gas, full speed ahead. But Mox didn't need this. Give it to Jay White, who you were given the shine to, or Swerve, who is the hottest, fastest rising young talent in this fucking company. And again, I apologize for the cousin. The cousin. Cousins. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the good thing is that Swerve didn't get pinned. Okay? So I'll say that. Jay White loses. Okay, I'll get on to the World's End later, but does Jay White end up in the Battle Royal? Potentially? To see who gets a shot at the TBS or TNT title or whatever? Or do you lay him back? What do you do with Jay White now? Where does he go from here is my question. We know Mox goes on to the finals, and I'll get into that. Again, good solid win, fantastic match. Didn't need to be Moxley. I'm not saying it's the right call or the wrong call. You make that call. I'm here to present Chaos Corner from my experiences. An insider's view, which most of you don't fucking have, including the rest of you that do podcasts in pro wrestling in the IWC. No offense, I'm just telling it like it is. And you guys know that when you come to this channel. So, and then you push Swerve into, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself because Swerve and Nana came on after this match. Again, Mox pins Jay White, wins the three-way for the Gold League to advance to the finals for Summer's End. World's End, it is what it is. Tomato, tomato, potato, potato, and that's this Saturday night. So a big win by Mox. He had a great tournament. He had the most points. White and Swerve had great tournaments. But you understand my points about all three of these grapplers. And then Swerve and Nana are in the back out of nowhere because they have unfinished business all of a sudden after you lose the three-way. No disappointment, no damn, no real emotion. Swerve is great in the ring, but I'm not sure about the promo skills, the mic skills, and maybe that's why Nana is there. Right? Maybe that's why. Because that's what he does, right? And I'm sitting down, so I'm not doing a swerve. Elvis Presley has nothing on me. Trust me. So they throw him back into the unfinished business with the big man, the limitless Keith Lee, who we've barely seen on TV. It's certainly not in the ring. We know they did a big spoof on him, and they showed live footage how he can't cut a promo. So is that why he's there? And when he does, he's just a humble, big guy. Now, I love Keith Lee. I met him. I had a chance to pick his brain. I loved his work in the WWE, but not being used the right way here. From there to here, I'm just calling it like I see it. They were the tag team champions together at one point for a hot minute, a New York minute, Swerve and Lee. And then they had the heat when they brought in Big Rick Ross and said, motherfucker, this is fucking big dude. You can't censor me here. So, well, I guess you could, but don't. And I apologize again. So you're throwing them back into a storyline that's way past. No heat, no build-up. It's cold. Do you think that the fans who have the attention span of a dehydrated BB are going to remember the whole feud between Lee and Swerve? Probably not. So it ought to be a good matchup. Is Lee physically up to it after Strickland has been in this tournament and fine-tuning his skills and swerving while he's driving? Diamond in the back, sun rooftop, get on the scene with the gangster lean. Ooh. Just be thankful for what you've got. I said a diamond in the back, sun rooftop, get on the scene, dig on the scene with the gangster lean. Ooh. Gangster white walls, TV antenna in, no? Come on, man. Just be thankful for what you got. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it'll be a solid bout, I hope. I wouldn't have revisited. You were already past it. That's just my opinion. So that's going to be at World's End. It's going to be Swerve and Keith Lee. And you know Nana will be around with the Kingdom, the Mogul Kingdom, whatever the fuck they're called. We go into next on Dynamite with the only guy besides Paul Heyman as an old school traditional manager who's actually catching some heat. He's a heat-seeking moisture missile, if you know what I'm talking about. The Don Callis family with Powerhouse Hobbs, who I happened to meet last year at the casinos in Mohegan Sun, here in the shadows of Titan Towers in the greater New England tri-state Northeast area. An unbelievable guy. We bumped into each other like 3 or 4 times in different clubs at like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning after Rampage at dark. Obviously a big, jacked dude and in great shape. He looks like a monster on TV, but side by side in the photos, which are here on the community page, you see me and him hanging out. He's not much bigger than the G.O.C. Obviously, he's jacked. He's big black and he's jacked, and I'm wild white and I'm whacked. So it is what it is. I'm just about 6 foot 6'1", so he might be 6'1", 6'2". I was at one time 3 1/4, 330. When I saw Powerhouse, I was probably at 235, 240. I'm now 215. So he's about 270 with an ounce of body fat. Unbelievable shape. But what a guy. What a class act. Talk to him, Shane Sullins, the big, bald, white, tattooed jack dude who's worked security, always at ringside. You can't miss him. Another great guy. Got to talk to Wardlow briefly. And then, of course, at the Valet, got to see my old buddy from years ago, Taz. So to get to pick these guys' brains, and they remember we're all in a brotherhood, that's respect, and that's what I'm talking about. So to see the Callis family with Hobbs, and now a guy that I originally underrated in Kyle Fletcher, and then Takeshita, that's quite the impressive group. Just Hobbs and Takeshita to begin with, and then throwing Fletcher, who's an unbelievable technician and a high flyer. And Callis brings the heat, whether you like him or hate him. It's just that simple. And I can appreciate and respect that. So they're out there with a bunch of paintings, and they're calling out this one, that one. You know, they had the whole thing going on with trying to get Jericho to join the Callis family. And who comes out? We haven't seen him in a little while. The Spanish God, who's now a proud papa. Congratulations, Guevara. Sammy Guevara comes out as if he's going to take the invitation from Callis to join the Callis family. You knew something was up, right? But I didn't expect this all the way. Let me wrap it up a little tighter. So Sammy comes out. Out of nowhere, Sammy rebukes Callis, face mushes him, and then, of course, the Callis family attacks Sammy and beat him into oblivion. And who comes out of nowhere? That's right, the Wizard, the Painmaker, the Young Lion, Y2J, Le Champion, whatever it is that you call him. Chris Jericho comes out of nowhere with the bat to make the save against the Callis family and save the Spanish God. I didn't see that coming, I'll be honest. So face turned for Guevara, because when he left, he was a heel. Now they're trying to turn Sammy face. That whole heel change months back was for what? What did you accomplish, TK? I'm not calling anybody out. I'm not judging. I'm just asking the question. So I'm assuming, and you know when you assume, I'm not trying to be Felix Unger and Oscar Madison for when you assume, or whatever other movie you was in. Make an ass out of you and me. What movie was that from? It was in a couple of movies. Sam Kinison, maybe Back to School? I don't know, man. But seeing that Omega is allegedly hurt with the diverticulitis, and we're hoping for a quick recovery if that's the case, they're bringing Sammy back for Jericho because there's no longer the Golden Jets. So let's get part of the JAS back together. So Jericho with the bat, and Sammy, I don't know how they run off basically the Callis family with those beasts, especially Takeshita and Hobbs. I'm really impressed by those guys. And the pure athleticism of Fletcher. Who knows where it's going to go from there. Out of nowhere, here comes Big Bill, and you can't teach that. An absolute Ricky Starks, the current AEW World Tag Team Champions, out of nowhere. And they come out, and you think they're, whose side are they going to be on? They're obviously heels. Although in AEW, you have faces versus faces, heels versus heels. None of it makes any sense. They come out and they attack Jericho and Sammy. So all this going on at one time, all this confusion and chaos, I'll say it again. So now they're setting up, obviously, between Sammy and Jericho to get a tag shot. The tag team division is a mess right now in AEW. And here's the capper. Here's the icing on the cake. Wait for it. Wait for it. Out of nowhere comes Darby Allin and Sting. And they come out with a baseball bat and they attack Starks and Big Bill. And you can't teach that. So now we went from the Callis family to Sammy and Jericho to Starks and Big Bill, the current champions, to Sting and Darby. And some of the bat shots, I get it, you got to be careful, although the injuries in AEW are off the chain. The bat shots are looking a little weak. If you're not going to lay them in there, I get it, within reason. What are you doing? So that's what happened with the whole Callis family vignette. It turned into 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 9 or 10 guys in the ring running into. So again, mass confusion. But it leads to World's End. I almost said World's Dream, but it said World's End. You see what happens here with this bitch, right? She's always interrupting us. At 30 minutes, the bitch is interrupting us. Alexa, play Tropical Thunderstorm sounds for my fans. Let's see what happens here. Technology, AI, they're listening. So that's what came out of that. And at World's End, and I'll get onto the card, this is going to turn into a big sausage fest, like an 8-man tag team match. So we'll get to that at World's End when I do the preview. I want to get through this. Next, we have the finals in the Blue League between the Mad King and the American Dragon. Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson for you geeks. Come on, stay informed. Do your research. Now, this was another match that I would consider a solid bout. We know vastly different careers by the two, vastly different styles. They've been telling Eddie Kingston's story and playing it like a fiddle from the time he came in. And man, do I like it. I'm a fan of Eddie Kingston's style. And for this, let me wrap the chains a little harder around the Guardian of Chaos. Kingston, for what you want to say about his style, and he goes with the whole thing of the bum, he's the bum. That's a perfect way to play the gimmick for Kingston. But he can sure get in there, injured or not. His promos are real, although once he started getting recognized for how great and realistic and touching it was, being how he could relate it to the audience and his emotions. I think it's lost a little bit of its luster right now. It seems sometimes like not as genuine as Eddie is in real life, or usually is on these promos. But what a match. And I'm totally against what's been going on with Bryan Danielson. I just am. That the broken orbital bone, whether it's a work, not a work, it's partial, it's not partial. You know, bleeding, I get it. He's an unbelievable grappler. He was great as Bryan Danielson, and was great at Daniel Bryan, and Bryan Danielson again as the American Dragon. Being injured and going all out, and I know he wants to, get out by next year, he told his daughter, but no rest. Injured, supposed to be out for the rest of 2024. Now he's back earlier than you thought. And them really working that orbital bone makes me think that how injured could you possibly be with the unbelievable bouts that he puts on? 100% every time he's out there. Doing some of the best work of his career in AEW, although not always used the right way. Just my opinion. When it comes to emotional investment, storytelling, ring psychology, I'm going to tell you. Again, a great match, but I worry about the health of the guys in AEW, in any sport. And pro wrestling is a sport. I'm just telling you how I feel. And again, Kingston's whole image and gimmick, and it's partly him as well, so it's kind of a shoot. They've been telling his whole story about the whole Japanese connection and his heroes. Konnichiwa, bitches, arigato, from Chaos-san. and it's believable and it works. And then holding the 3 titles, Ring of Honor, New Japan. This is kind of like a takeoff of the Triple Crown over in New Japan, because we know TK's a fan, and that's what this is molded after. And he pulled it off to a degree, I'll say it. A solid bout going back and forth. And again, I can't get over Danielson and risking his health. But all these guys apparently are, to an extra degree than the other league. Just telling you. Mad King, and some people did call it, but not a lot, Mad King pins Bryan Danielson, gets the victory, and like I said, a solid bout. Again, I'll say the banger, okay, but forgive me. A solid bout with Kingston, and now he goes on to his home area, not really from Long Island, but New York, you get it, to take on what people in AEW consider a legit badass in Jon Moxley. And then Kingston's hometown, and the whole story of how he lost the first 2 bouts of the Classic and ended up where he is now. An underdog, a ham and egger, a tomato can, a bum, in his words, the fans' words, and other people's words. Not in my eyes. I like the way it played out. Wasn't what I picked until you get near the end. To be honest, I know they've been hanging their hat on Moxley, and TK loves Moxley. It's obvious. The way he works, what he lets him do. I didn't think it would be Mox. Kingston, I would say a little bit more to Moxley. I didn't think Moxley was going to make it because he didn't need it. He's already an established star. What's the point? So Kingston and Mox go on to the finals for the Continental crown at World's End this Saturday night, live. Again, the Continental Classics for the tournament, most of the bouts were fantastic. Daniel Garcia was there for a reason. Andrade was unbelievable. I already talked about King, who's no Brody. Jay Lethal and Mark Briscoe were perhaps the 2 most solid guys in the tournament. Lethal is being used as a jobber, and I consider that to be a compliment. You know, Jay White, Shine, were a lot of people that did a lot of good things, and I'm missing a couple of guys. But that's what you have, and the Continental Classic has been successful, and I expect a brutal, hard-hitting matchup between Mox and the Mad King. We go on to the women's division with Sky Blue against Chris Statlander, the former TBS champion. Let me tell you something about Statlander. A big lady in great shape. I like that she changed the gimmick. I got to say, one of the best athletes in that female division by far. I really like Statlander. Sky Blue, Julia Hart, Abaddon, all the rest of them, they're greener than grass. Greener than a horny toad. I'm just telling you where I see it, where I come from. All respect. They've all improved. Trust me. The whole hanging out with the King and Matthews and Malachi Black with the whatever they call themselves, not the Blackpool Combat Club, the House of Black. I like what Julia Hart's doing. She's definitely got a push, but there's a lot of worthy women in the division. Thunder Rosa's finally back. They have Mercedes Martinez. They have Roxy. They have a whole bunch of different ladies that could be grappling. I know Jamie Hayter's injured. Where's Britt Baker? And this is what we're coming down to, is young girls in their 20s who are developing and holding their own. But the women's division is also a disaster. Sky Blue pins Statlander. Now, don't get crazy. Statlander, one of the best grapplers, perhaps in all of wrestling. Julia Hart comes out of nowhere with the interference. Julia Hart interferes, whacks Statlander. Sky Blue gets the pin. Big, huge victory for Sky Blue. Out of nowhere comes Willow Nightingale, another young, talented, green performer, but very good. All these ladies, very young, very green in my opinion, but they're holding it down. Willow Nightingale comes out to defend her good friend Statlander, to run off Julia Hart and Sky Blue, and then out of nowhere comes Abaddon. Now, I don't like the gimmick, the whole zombie gimmick and coming out of nowhere. You haven't seen her in months. They brought her back to face Julia Hart in the House of Black and that whole mystical thing they're trying to get going here. I don't like it. I don't like the gimmick. I heard she's a good grappler, showing me nothing as the Abaddon character and how it plays into this with Julia Hart. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. She's on the ramp threatening, as I look at my notes, Sky Blue and Julia Hart. So this will set up something. Abaddon will go on to face Julia Hart. You see the storyline over the last few weeks at World's Dream, which is really World's End. I must be dreaming. I'm dreaming of a genie with light brown hair. Where else do you get this sort of variety and entertainment on a pro wrestling TV show? So that's what's going on in the ladies division. We know Thunder Rosa made her return. Let's see what happens. Again, I talked about Hayter, Britt Baker. Who knows? We carry on with Renee Moxley Good Paquette interviewing Mariah May, who's came in with all fanfare, really hasn't done much, been a Tony Storm assistant. She comes out and is interviewed with Renee, and out of nowhere comes Riho. No, nobody grabbed my cojones. Riho, who's actually not that bad. G.O.C, Kingdom, whatever they're down with, Stardom. Okay, I get it. The whole intermingling there between Japan, New Japan, Kingdom, Stardom, whatever you want to call it, and of course here, AEW and Ring of Honor. Riho comes out of nowhere, chases Mariah May out of the ring because we know May is associated with Tony Storm, timeless Tony Storm, who to me is probably the best women's wrestler in the whole company, including Thunder Rosa, including Britt Baker, including Jamie Hayter. So Tony Storm obviously comes out to save Mariah May, her groupie. But Riho, out of nowhere, tosses Tony Storm, who tries to hit her with the belt. Storm's the AEW Ladies Champion. Misses her and tosses her around like a tossed salad, should I say? And then tries to do a Rey Mysterio type 619, but is saved by the butler Luther, formerly of Chaos, no relation. It's the best he's ever been in the ring, for crying out loud. And that's out of nowhere then, if I'm not mistaken too, I have to look back and forth. Riho misses the 619 because she's saved. I'm spending way too much time on this segment. And then out of nowhere, she does an a la, whatever you guys want to call, over the top rope, suicide dive, topa suicida, on to Luther and Tony Storm. So I was digging that. Now, of course, we know this is going to set up the match between Riho and Tony Storm for the AEW Ladies title. Now, let me just double check my facts here. Because we know, well, let me get on to that. Because I don't think that's been etched in stone yet. So I stand corrected. And I'm humble enough to say when I'm wrong. We're 40 minutes in here for Dynamite, going way longer than I wanted to. So we may be up on an hour on here. So that's what's going on in the ladies division. At least going into World's End. Let me get that right. World's End. In the finals of the Continental Classic as well. Then we go to the main event for the Ring of Honor Tag Team titles. Sit back and listen, fans. I may end up doing World's End preview by itself because this may take a little while. I'll just have this as an AEW Dynamite review. Okay, this will be part 1 and then we'll go to part 2. So I keep your guys here with the brain of a turnbuckle. I want to keep your attention, and not my subscribers. I love all you guys. I'm talking about the people that are lurking in the back, and I know. It's okay, man. I get it. You're trying to report, come up with stuff on your own. I understand. You got to get up real fucking early and go to bed real fucking late. Remember who and what. Remember, MJF and Samoa Joe against the Masked Devils Brigade. Now, MJF comes out first because the masked men are out there. Who knows who they are? Different styles, different bodies. There's been a multitude from 2 to 4 to 8 to 10 to 12. Who knows how many? The 12 dwarfs, we'll call them. All in different styles, including the devil and the mask. One day it looks slight, slender, maybe a female, a slender man. Other times looked a little more jacked, a little more beefy. So you tell me. So the masked men are in the ring. MJF comes out, wearing a jacket. You don't see all the tape up under him because he's injured. We know he's injured from his hip to his shoulder. And that's why he's only 12-0-1 in 2023. MJF's only had 13 matches, 13 singles matches in a full year. Kind of like Roman Reigns has only had like 56 title defenses in like 4 years. Let all that sink in when guys like Backlund had over 800 in his run. Bruno over 600 and 700 in his reigns. Hogan over almost 500 in his reigns. Defenses. Let that sink in. Bringing up facts, and the facts don't lie. Say what you want. Oh, it's a different time. It's a different game, bro. It's not the same anymore. Horse shit. So MJF comes out, and then we hear Joe's music, and MJF is looking back, and Samoa Joe is persona non grata, and we find him backstage holding his knee like he just got beat down. Now you don't see anybody else but Joe selling that right knee, moaning and groaning and whimpering, and you don't see that out of Joe that often. And MJF is looking back and wondering and looking in the ring. He's like, fuck it. I want to defend the titles. The ref's trying to call him off, hold him off. No, I want to defend the titles. So he's going 2 against 1, which he's done before for his good friend Adam Cole and the whole bromance. And no matter how good it was going and you were entertained by it, and I was at times too, it turned out to be shit. And holding on to it and not pivoting and going to something else. You think Bill Watts would have done this? Or Dusty Rhodes? Or even Triple H? I don't think so. Eddie Graham? I mean, do you think any of these guys would have done stuff like this? Ric Flair? No, I think not when they were all bookers. The hell, what were we even throwing Shawn Michaels? Talk about brain of a dehydrated baby. I mean, it's a work, man. Kayfabe. So he decides that he wants to take on both of the masked men. The Devil's Brigade, we'll say. He attacks them both, holds his own. Obviously, he's not going to win in the 2 against 1 as I break down some of the notes. And the same thing, if you remember, I know that you do a couple weeks back, MJF was laid in the back when they were supposed to perfectly set up with the belt and a beer bottle, leaving conjecture everywhere, and I'll get onto that, you know, and then he couldn't defend with Samoa Joe, and all the goons came out, the Devil's Brigade. And now this is almost the same thing, but wait for it, the guys that watched it and those who didn't. So obviously, they end up taking MJF out. I mean, it's just a matter of time. They even hit MJF with his own maneuver through the ropes, the pile driver, whatever the fuck they call it. I call it a face-first pile driver through the ropes. Plain and simple. They pin MJF with their foot on the ropes. 2 or 3 henchmen laying around. One switches out on another. 1, 2, 3. MJF gets pinned again. No matter what kind of match it is, you don't want to see your world champion getting pinned going into a major pay-per-view, or pinned at fucking all in a tag team match or a 6-man match or what, a 2-on-1 handicap match. Do you really want to see your world champion getting pinned? And since they've moved this whole thing over to Adam Cole, they have blown it, making this guy into a face. He can recover. He's still doing great work. He's unbelievable in the ring. Perhaps the best psychology in the business. I'm just giving you my viewpoint. It's took away some of the luster. He's not popping the ratings. And people say, oh, fuck the ratings. Okay. They're making money. Whatever. I'm just telling you the facts. I'm presenting it as it's laid out to us. So they pin him. And then here comes the music. And here comes Samoa Joe. The 2 or 3 or 4 goons that are down there. MJF laid out. Now he's gimping. He's selling. He's got the steel chair in his hand. I mean, listen. Several hooded men might have appeared at that point. Joe did a good job of selling. He even kept it on the right leg. Because a lot of times people forget, including the top stars and talent and superstars. So he limps into the ring. The Devil's Brigade take the powder. He's chasing him around the ring as much as he can with the gimp. Remember the gimp from Pulp Fiction with Bruce Willis and John Travolta and Ving Rhames? If you haven't, go out and see the gimp. Talk about sickness. Disgusting, despicable human beings. Check that out. That's an eye-opener. Out of nowhere, once again, the image of the devil with the mask. Not the real devil, because I rebuke you. All you got to do is say Jesus. And he's on the Titantron, or the Tonytron, we'll call it, because we don't want a copyright infringement. And there's MJF and Samoa Joe looking up, and I believe it said, "A pleasure doing business with you" on the screen, which I'm guessing is directed at the henchmen, the goons. Out of nowhere, you could see it coming. Joe winds up and cracks MJF in the fucking back with the steel chair, and then hits him again with it, picks him up and gives him the big buster from the top rope like only Joe can, which will knock a moose out, a horse, a gorilla, an elephant. Unbelievable power move by Joe and how he sells himself, his gimmick, his persona. Because even though they're facing each other this weekend at World's End, and they've had the running feud where Joe is kind of substituted for Cole, but not as much as a bromance. I'm here for you. I got your back. We've been trying to do this. There, MJF seems to save him a couple times leading into the storyline, right? I didn't see this coming, at least not tonight. So pretty damn impressive as Joe proceeded to just decimate Max. Leave him laying in the ring. And again, talk about cardinal rules. He stands over him. He's holding the belt. So there's a lot of significance to that, people believe. Some people say if you hold the belt, that means you're going to win the belt. A lot of people say if you hold the belt, well, it's a precursor that you're not going to win the belt. With the injuries of Friedman and what's going on, and how they got him going in 10 different ways with the storyline. I mean, it really is anybody's guess what's going to happen at World's End. And again, I'm going to come back and do a full preview of World's End as we do the go-home show, the review here of Dynamite Continental Classic going into World's End this Saturday night. So that leaves us to a couple different things. Who are these masked men? Now, I'm going to get into that at World's End. But that's how they went off the air last night for the AEW Continental Classic. Moxley wins and goes to the finals. Kingston wins and goes to the finals. Joe turns on MJF, loses the Ring of Honor Tag Team titles, which really don't mean a hill of beans right now. Again, I'll say why Ring of Honor on AEW TV. I'll never get it. So MJF injured, turned on by Joe. Again, the match was forthcoming, so say what you want. That's what I'm taking out of AEW Dynamite for last night. And again, what's going on in the women's division. But this has been built around MJF, Samoa Joe, the Devil, the Devil's Brigade, the Goons, the Henchmen, whatever you want to call them. The Identity, the big reveal, and of course the Continental Classic. And then other things that came out of last night. But we're at almost 53 minutes just to cover AEW Dynamite from last night, the go-home show leading into World's End. So I'm going to be right back for part 2, the preview of World's End this weekend for AEW and the finals of the Continental Classic. Because one thing I failed to mention and neglect before we get out of here was the vignette between Adam Copeland and Christian Cage, who was with Nick Wayne and Milfy Mama Wayne, trying to do a sit-down. You know, everybody's favorite parent, everybody's dad, Christian Cage. Unbelievable fucking work. And then bringing in Nick Wayne, the kid, and his mom. I don't know where Luchasaurus is, so who knows. But they were going to have a sit-down interview, but it turned into a backstage brawl where everybody's brothers, monkeys, uncles, cousins, sisters' ass all got involved in a break-apart between Copeland and Christian Cage. And we know the history and storyline and the heat building up to seeing what's going to happen at World's End. I even saw Marshall and Ross Von Erich in that scrum backstage. It's nice to see him. Put him on fucking AEW TV instead of keeping him on Ring of Honor. We have to pay on an app or whatever, see highlights. Not working. Nobody's watching. So I forgot to mention that. And that's one of the biggest feuds going in right now. 2 legends, 2 Hall of Famers. Christian Cage and Adam Copeland. So that came out of the vignette last night and the big break apart. So stand by. Now we're at 55 minutes. I hope you enjoyed this show. I know it was a long one, but come back for the preview of World's End. I'll say that to say this, because I tell it like it is. Don't you dare miss it. Well, come on back, man. We're not done yet.